Surveillance has become more prevalent than ever in our society. Whether it's the government trying to gather information to keep the populace safe or a company trying to get a competitive edge, surveillance has introduced a constant observer to our communications, locations, and activities. The right to privacy has been a long debated topic as to whether or not it is a human right. On one hand, the government can generally function better if they know every detail of every person they were governing. They would know exactly where everybody was and exactly what they were doing at all times, basically creating the most perfect police state that could be implemented. Crime would become almost non existent, and all suspects' alibis would be instantaneously verifiable as all of their activities would be monitored. Many government functions would become instantly easier, and law and order would become the perfect standard. This is very similar to the situation described by Folcott in his Panopticism essay. All officials would have exact details of exactly what everybody was doing, their exact state of health, and their exact location, effectively creating the panopticon that Folcott references. The panopticon was originally proposed by Bentham and describes a structure in which a large number of people can be placed in cells and easily observed by a single person from a central point where all of these cells face. Although this is not actually implemented in this hypothetical, it is what the government would be trying to replicate, a single observer looking over the populace. Although this is a fairly extreme example, it isn't necessarily out of the question. Surveillance doesn't have to come from one source. Using social media to track your activities, your phone to track your location, and a plethora of other applications that you may be using to track health data, schedule, and other things in your life, someone can already surveil you through many different means. Separately, these things might not be anything that would be a cause for concern, but as use of new technology increases, these sources of information will multiply, giving a more detailed look into your daily life. Although the main purpose of these technologies is not for surveillance necessarily, they can be part of a method of information collection known as secondary use, where, as the name suggests, the data gathered from these applications is used for something other than their intended purpose. Now that we have a functional way of combining all of this data into a panopticon, what does that mean for those involved? People generally act differently when they know they are being watched. Think about talking to people in your family about a medical condition. You would probably be more open with them than you would be with your coworkers or boss, as they don't necessarily need to know all the details that you would share with your family. You intentionally censor yourself to keep this information private. In Black Mirror's Archangel, this comes into effect when Sarah's mother confronts Ethan about his relationship with Sarah. He completely changes all his dealings with her because he knows her mom is watching. This effect has been shown to occur in the real world as well. After Edward Snowden leaked that the NSA had been surveilling everybody in the name of counterterrorism, the PEN America organization found that many writers began to censor themselves. 28% reduced their social media usage, 24% avoided talking about sensitive topics in email and even over the phone, and 16% avoided writing about topics altogether that might have increased surveillance on them. For a panopticon to be in place, people would probably be aware of it, and thus, a similar effect would probably take place but on a much larger scale. What effect would this have? The fact that we don't live in a society with 100% effective surveillance allows us to operate in relative privacy and to experiment with ideas. Without this experimentation, social change would probably slow to a crawl, if not stop altogether. Things like gay marriage and medical marijuana are two things that have recently gained significant amounts of traction, would never have even been discussed if laws preventing them would have been completely enforced. If no one ever experiments with marijuana, how would they get the idea to test it for medical properties? Having privacy from surveillance to experiment allows people to develop new social ideas and change the way that other people and ideas are seen in the eyes of the law and society at large, ultimately leading to better laws that define the rights of the average person to better fit what society determines that set of rights to be.